Did you know that 3 out of 14 stories in A Silent Song have already been tested? We'll talk about that later in the course of the video. Let us talk about the rest of the stories. The first story is A Man of Awesome Power, written by an author from Egypt, Naguib Mahfouz. It talks about a man who acquires power and loses it because of misusing it. The lesson is that power can change an individual, or misuse of power is really catastrophic in a way. Page 1 to page 5. The second story is Incident in the Park. That is written by Meja Mwangi, an author from Kenya, page 6 to page 12. It talks about the challenges of urban life, that life in the city is not always as good as we imagine. And it was tested in KCSE 2025. The third story is Ninema, written by Veronica Patha, an author from South Africa. It talks about how good attributes, good values, good character can attract respect, admiration, or love, and even help your business or career. Ninema is a young lady who has her own admirable principles, and it attracts love and admiration from other people who may even be from a different social caste compared to her. The fourth story is A Silent Song, written by Leonard Kibera, a Kenyan author. It talks about Mbane's plight. Mbane is disabled and blind, but regardless of his situation, he has hope. This hope helps him to endure the difficulty that he goes through. Cover story. A Silent Song is on page 17 to page 20. Page 21 to 25, we have Ivory Bangles. Ivory Bangles is written by Eric Mario, a Tanzanian author. It pits personal values against societal norms or expectations. People suffer if their personal values are different or contradict the societal expectations. A society that has rigid norms or cultures may punish individuals who have their own personal values or choices or preferences, like in the case of the old man in Ivory Bangles. Many teachers find it controversial as a story. Story number 6 is The Sins of the Fathers, and it's on page 26 up to 41. It talks about how children suffer when their parents mistreat them. When parents impose their own beliefs, etc., on the child may actually have a difficult time growing up, and their growth and development may be impeded as a result. The next story is The Truly Married Woman, page 42 up to 48. The story of Ayo and Ajay, and it talks about how they enjoy life together as an unmarried couple, and especially Ajay. Ajay enjoys life more than Ayo. Ayo always has that hope that one day she'll get formally married, and when she finally gets married, she becomes a truly married woman. And it seems like in a one-sided relationship, the partner that commits is the one that suffers. Therefore, the story basically encourages shared values and respect in a relationship. The Truly Married Woman. Talking Money is the next story, page 49 up to 56. It was tested in KCSE 2024, and it talks about how people who do not heed wise advice from those close to them eventually attract problems to themselves. Like in the case of Mukidai, the moral is quite clear. Then the next story number 9 is Ghosts. Ghosts is written by Chimamanda Adichie, an author from Nigeria, and talks about ghosts of war, how survivors of war live with painful memories or experiences as a result of war. And it is based on the Biafran War, and it discourages war. Even if you support war, eventually you're going to be a victim and you're going to suffer the results of the same war. It is followed by God Sees the Truth But Waits. God Sees the Truth But Waits is written by Leo Tolstoy. And the core message in the story is that innocent people may suffer for crimes committed by others. It was tested in KCSE 2023. It was the first story ever to be tested in this collection of short stories. God Sees the Truth But Waits is on page 68 up to page 74. The next story is The Neighborhood Watch. The Neighborhood Watch talks about a street family, and this street family, of course, faces a myriad of problems. However, because of their unity and unity of purpose and teamwork and the way they help each other, they manage to endure the hardship on the street. As much as life is still very difficult, but they get by because of helping each other and having some sort of informal teamwork on the street. And they come together and they manage to get by day, as much as they have so many challenges. That is The Neighborhood Watch. The next story after The Neighborhood Watch is December. December is on page 84 up to page 90. December talks about a mentally ill patient and the challenges that she endures. And the main lesson is that a mentally ill patient needs love and compassion and empathy from family members and those who are close to the patient. That is page 84 up to page 90. It is similar to Memories We Lost, which was tested before in the last anthology, which was titled Memories We Lost. After December, we have Boi. Boi is written by Gloria Maniga from Kenya. Boi is on page 91 up to page 98. And Boi talks about war. It is somewhat similar to The President, which was in the previous anthology. But Boi focuses more on how the family members, or the community close to someone who is directly involved in war. Boi was directly involved in this war. And we see how Baba, Mama, and the narrator, Boi's sister, are affected by the war. Again, it discourages war. It talks about the effects of war, but specifically about how close family members are affected directly by the war. To the rest of the country, a militia member has been killed, but to Boi's family, it is a loved one, a young man with a lot of promise, with a bright future, whose life has been cut short because of a senseless war. The last story in this collection of short stories that was put together by Professor Godwin Siundo is Checkmate. And Checkmate is written by Kelvin Baldelsin. And it talks about how those who acquire massive wealth illegally will always suffer because they'll always be looking over their shoulder. If you acquire wealth illegally, you will not enjoy it. And that is the lesson, the main lesson in the story. The story is on page 98 up to page 109. 3 stories have already been tested, and that is God Sees the Truth But Waits, that was tested in 2023. We also have Talking Money, that was tested in 2024. And most recently, we had Incident in the Park, that was tested in 2025. Which one of the 14 is your favorite story? Which one do you think will be tested in 2026? And which of the stories do you think will be tested in 2027? Leave your comment. Tell us about what you think and let us know which is your favorite story and which one you think will be tested in 2026 or 2027.